All right, so we are going to be addressing the Coos County Measure 6194, authorizing Charleston area tax on short-term lodging. And with me is Tim Hyatt and Rick Osborn, who are going to start off by introducing themselves to the audience and telling us what each role is in regarding this tax proposal.
Great. I'm Tim Hyatt. I'm president of the Charleston Merchants Association, and I've been involved in the Charleston area for a number of years. We've addressed, a number of community issues. There's no sort of incorporated town or city of Charleston, so oftentimes some things that come around for say community improvement will fall toward our organization. And so we've worked with things like cleaning up Bassador Beach and things like that in the past. And really my main motivation here is to try to keep the area nice and try to beautify Charleston as best as we can.
And my name's Rick Osborn. I am with Blue Ridge Strategies, which is helping the Charleston merchants with communications and sort of getting the word out about what the bond or what the measure would do and how it would work and why this is a good thing for the community. I'm based here in Coos Bay.
All right, and so I'm going to go through a series of questions, and I understand that you guys will take turns perhaps answering them. Is that what you've decided you want to do?
Yeah, I think that'll.
All right, so here's the first question. Please explain the tax and what kind of short-term lodging will be required to charge visitors this tax. People who stay in RV parks, will the tax be levied on those using county campgrounds and etc.?
Sure. Well, basically what this does is it mimics what's already in place for Coos Bay and North Bend. And essentially it will be extending that same program out toward the Charleston area. And in answer to your question, it covers all short-term lodging from, say, the campgrounds toward the Airbnbs and things of that nature. So essentially anything less than a 30-day stay would be included. And so, for example, the state park would be included, and pretty much everything that would be under a 30-day stay.
RV parks, hotels, all that kind of stuff too. In that, just in that one specific area of Charleston and Barview.
Have any idea how many vacation rentals are actually located in this area? In the Charleston area?
I don't have that exact number, and I don't know that anybody actually has that exact number of how many actual vacation rentals there are. The lion's share of the revenue on this really will be coming from the campgrounds. From, for example, places like the State Park Campground and Bay Point Landing and places like that.
How does the tax rate compare to what is being charged in other areas of the South Coast?
That's a good question, and the rate will be lower than what's being charged north. And often on some of those rates, I actually have a sheet here that I can get that has all of those all listed. And it's very competitive, and it's either less or it's very close to the other rates that are in the local area. The local area meaning the coast of Oregon.
It's exactly,
in this case.
It's also exactly the same as Coos Bay and North Bend. They're all at 9.5%. Charleston would be the same rate. So it would be the same as existing communities. And looks like Warrenton is 12%, for example, Seaside's 10. But these lodging taxes, like I've been traveling a little bit here lately around the state, and pretty much every community I've at least stayed in a hotel at has had a lodging tax of some sort. So, I think, and that people expect that when they travel.
Yeah, basically, Charleston, again, being an area without some sort of a city council or something like that, doesn't have the ability to participate in this without going to the voters. And so that's the mechanism of this. And so it's kind of an odd situation to have an area without a lodging tax like this. And so it's been like that for a number of years. And so this is the mechanism for us to try to fill some of those gaps, to attempt to make the area nicer for tourism and also for public safety. Some of this money is going for public safety as well.
That kind of touches on the next question, which is, why are all of the voters in Coos County deciding this tax instead of just the voters in the Charleston area?
That's another great question. And the folks from the county would be probably better able to answer that specifically than I would. But that's just the way that it works. And working through the county attorney, that's what they came up with.
Yeah, you have to have some sort of, to do an area, you have to have the lowest political or the smallest political subdivision to do it. So if it were the city of Coos Bay, the city would vote. And unfortunately, because Charleston isn't incorporated, that means it's in the county and therefore the entire county votes for it.
How will the tax be collected, and for how long will this tax be in effect?
Well, there's no sunset clause on this tax, so it would be in effect going forward. And the tax would be collected by the merchants themselves. And there is something in it really for everybody, from the standpoint that 5% actually stays with the merchant as well. And so they have the ability to keep some of the revenue. And then that would then be sent to the county, would be the mechanism.
Percent, is that 5% of what they collect?
Correct, yes.
How much revenue is projected to be raised by this tax in 1 year?
The revenue projections, have varied pretty wildly. And we hesitate to give, numbers specifically because they are, of course, just projections. The numbers were estimated to be around $400,000 to $500,000 per year total, is what the overall projections were. And again, these are just projections. We don't know what that would actually what that actually would be.
How much discretion does the Coos County government have then on how it will spend the tax monies that will be retained by the county?
They have quite a bit of leeway. They have committed to spending this money for public safety and for making the area nicer. Nicer in the sense, for example, cleaning up derelict motorhomes that are left on the side of the road and things of that nature. And so 30% of the total would then be kept by the county, and they have committed to use that for public safety and for keeping the area nicer, primarily in the Charleston area.
And then the rest of it goes towards, like, for example, a visitor center, and then other activities to market and promote the area to improve tourism and bring more visitors to the area so they'll spend money here.
The others not retained by the county.
Repeat that.
Yeah,
correct.
I just want to make sure they heard it.
Okay, so the 70% that is going to be retained for promotion of the Charleston area, how is that money allocated or decided how it's spent?
that I believe is by state statute, actually, that it goes toward the Visitor Convention Bureau locally to go towards marketing the area. And then a portion of that can go towards, like, for example, a visitor center and some things to improve the visitor experience in that community.
Does the Charleston Visitor Center have specific plans on how they would use the funds they'd be receiving?
The plans that we would have, in this case, it would be the Charleston Merchants Association that would be in discretion of getting those funds going. And that would be getting used for a new visitor center, either around, probably a whole new property location in all likelihood, and somewhere that's much more visible and an entirely new visitor center for the area. And one of the things that I would like to bring up, a lot of folks, especially if they've been here in the area for a long time, they say, well, I don't care about a visitor center. Why do I want a visitor center? And they have to realize, put themselves in the shoes of the people that are, visiting the area. And that is a welcoming thing for people coming in. And, $277 million was spent in the county in 2019 by visitors, coming into Coos County. And so the tourism dollars are not insignificant, and those dollars are what goes to help keep the tackle shop opened up and other local shops. And so it really is a huge benefit. And even though somebody in the local area might not be using the visitor center, it still is benefiting them by bringing in money that's going to be spent within the community.
And there's an opportunity there too, because Charleston community doesn't necessarily have like a meeting space that could be used for, public meetings and stuff like that. That is a community type of thing. There are other groups that have things, but this could be an opportunity to create that kind of space as well, in addition to the visitor center, just to have it be a little bit more multi-purpose to really meet the needs of people who live there now, as well as people who visit during the summertime and other parts of the year.
Is there anything else you want to tell the voters about this measure?
So I think I'd say this is not your usual government tax, in the sense that this was requested by the Charleston merchants. It is to promote tourism, public safety in Charleston, which affects tourism and visitors in that area, and is really for economic development. The lodging establishment owners are all in favor of it. And the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce also has endorsed it. So it's something that the business community is asking for. And I'd also go so far as to say, this is something the Charleston merchants asked for, and they play a significant role in that community. And I personally don't live in Charleston, but I would feel, this is something the community essentially is asking for. And so I think if they want it, I would be inclined to support it.
Right. But those are some great points. And another part of it too is not a penny of this goes to Salem. It all stays within Coos County to be spent for the benefit of Coos County. And if you're looking at something from the standpoint of, well, what do I get out of it? Say, if a voter is asking that in Coos County, the answer is you get to essentially have visitors from outside the area foot the bill to make our area nicer. So when you take your kids out fishing, you can have a better, community to go ahead and go through, more amenities, and have a much nicer area. And so those are some of the big benefits. And
just looking at like restaurants and shops and gas stations and the things that we enjoy as people who live here all the time, a lot of those businesses I know might not be able to be there if not for those tourism dollars that are coming in. So those promotions actually benefit not just the visitors, but all of us who enjoy going to some of these establishments that may struggle during the summer months if there's a bad tourism year.
Right. Another mechanism of this as well, and I don't want to get too far off into the weeds on it, but the Visitor and Convention Bureau, they also promote the Oregon's Adventure Coast. A lot of folks in the local area aren't going to necessarily know about them because they primarily promote to folks that are 50 miles outside of the community. They currently spend around $800,000 per year promoting the area. And some of the dollars, some of the numbers that they have produced are saying that for every dollar that they spend, as much as $20 of that comes back to the area in revenue that's being spent, within the community, and that of course gets spent over and over again within the community. And so the Charleston area has been the beneficiary of the Oregon's Adventure Coast and the Visitor and Convention Bureau promoting the area for a number of years, and we contribute a grand total of $0 toward the overall effort. And so this makes it to where Charleston's pulling its own weight, and it would essentially would be promoting the area with around $1 million a year and bump up the $800,000 up to around $1 million total. And so those are some of the behind the scenes things that are also going on and will be in place.
Thank you very much. Tim, Rick, anything further you want to say before we sign off?
Well, I guess I'd add just one more quick aside is that, so I actually come from a bit of a unique perspective on this, because my family actually does own a bed and breakfast in the Coos Bay area. So I've seen how this lodging tax, and I've talked to them about this. I asked them some people might say, well, you're raising a tax and that's going to make us less competitive. And even talking to my parents, I said, does this affect anything? And they said, nobody ever bats an eye. People expect that they're going to have that when they go visit somewhere, and it just is how it is. So I think that it's really not that big of a deal for a lot of the tourists. Like when you're talking, and even if you're talking about campers at a campsite, if at a $40 tent site, you're looking at less than $4. So it's kind of one of those things, but you also get the trade-off of increased patrols so that, your gear doesn't get stolen and that kind of stuff, or it's less likely to. And it's just a bigger benefit to the community, whereas, the downside really isn't that great.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I've been a part of the Charleston community for a lot of years, and I feel very connected to the community. And this is really something that I feel is going to be a big benefit to the area. If I thought for a second that it was going to somehow hinder economic growth or be some sort of a detriment, I would be the first one to try to shut this down. But that's not the case. I really feel it's going to be a big benefit, and I really sincerely feel that I want to make it a nicer area. I've got an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I want to feel very proud of going down by the visitors center with them and saying, hey, this is something that we have, welcoming guests to the community, and it's something that I really feel is going to be a big benefit for the area.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.